How's it going, everybody? This is episode 2 of About Crypto. We have one of my friends on today, Matt Snow. We're just going to dive into some crypto topics and see what Matt does and just get him out there. How's it going, Matt?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, of course. So just a quick question, like how did you get into crypto?
Yeah, so actually it was like summer. Well, I first heard about Bitcoin in about 2012, 2013 in kind of libertarian political circles and sadly did not act on it. Would be living a different life right now if maybe I dabbled $100. Um, so in 2017, the summer of 2017, I was interning at a startup called NatureBox, and I sat near the developers when I always get coffee with them, and they were always talking about crypto, and then started talking about it on Slack and everything. And it was actually Ethereum that they first got me into, and they kept hyping up the hard fork. And so I put, not a ton of money, like a couple $100 into the hard fork, but I doubled my money within 2 or 3 days. And I was like, holy shit, what is this? And that really got me super interested in it. And it somehow, I don't know why, but it wasn't until July of 2019 that I really went fully down the rabbit hole on Bitcoin. And it's been like 11 months now, and I really haven't stopped. It's been every single day. I've probably read 6 or more Bitcoin books and countless hours of just podcasts and articles and everything. And it's just an obsession that, you can't really stop.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, man. So you've been in for like a while now then, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, like I didn't do much until 2019. That was when I started getting like serious though.
Okay, cool. I feel like crypto time, it's like dog years, right? Like 7 years for everyone that you're in, basically. So, so you're a writer too, and you have a newsletter. I mean,
Yep.
tell me more about that.
Yeah. Didn't start doing that also until maybe 6 months ago. I started getting really active and was inspired by David Perel, who I went to school with, who's just got an amazing following on Twitter, and just saw the power of it. And so I finally started being a producer rather than just a consumer of content, and very quickly got into like a top spot on Medium in a couple categories like economics and venture capital. And then saw the Substack, movement, and kind of wanted to get on the wave. And it's been really fun. The really fun thing about the newsletter is it's not the level of perfection that I feel like has to go into a blog post is much different than the level of perfection that needs to go into a good newsletter post. And kind of, I can crank those out at any time of the day, but they almost like pull more value because I can because I don't feel like I have to go over it and reword it 10,000 times. Like I can just really express what I want to say. And it's really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Good for you. And you're an investment analyst as well.
Yeah, so I started with a group called Greenspring Associates in 2018, which is like a really large venture capital fund of funds that does direct investments in companies as well, about 10 billion in assets now. And then recently joined a fintech and prop tech fund called JKS Ventures, run by Jeff Pilch. And I've also been writing for a publication called The Buzz, which profiles New England startups. So if there's any founders in the New England area, please reach out to me. Would be happy to cover you in that newsletter as well. And yeah, it's been really great, like learning about, just like the startup world and, now trying to help crypto founders, particularly people building around like Bitcoin, trying to help them plug into investors because, there's still a lot of lack of education and like I think a severe lack of capital going into cryptocurrency and blockchain. So trying to like push those founders to the right direction.
Dude, absolutely. And it's always interesting to see people coming from a traditional finance background into crypto and seeing how that works out for them. And I'm always excited about that because that means we're seeing growth in other aspects that can take us to the next level. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's really great. So what do you have coming up? Like, how's lockdown been for you? Have you just been writing or?
Yeah, I've been like doing a lot. I mean, most of the meetings that I would do in person have moved to Zoom or on the phone. So just a lot of phone calls and Zoom meetings, which is, it gets the job done, but it's definitely not the same as, as someone who likes to meet people, live for drinks. It's just not the same, but uh, yeah, pushing through. And then, yeah, definitely been using the time to crank out the content as well. And just trying to stay up to date with what feels like an endless stream of horrible news.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. And I subscribe to your newsletter and it makes sense to me and it's great. So keep pushing on that. It's awesome, man.
I appreciate
And
it.
besides that, do you think there's going to be more institutional capital coming in over the coming years into Bitcoin and digital assets?
Yeah, 100%. I think One of the things I've incorporated in the newsletter is this thing I do called Saturdays are for the Bitcoin. I just profile who are the richest, most famous people that are getting in with Bitcoin specifically, but they're also looking at other cryptocurrencies. And like you have all these billionaires, and the last one, Paul Tudor Jones, just such a legendary investor to come out. And the funny thing is that the price, if anything, since then has flatlined and had a couple severe drops. And I truly am under the belief that this is a small market. It's very easy to manipulate the price, and institutional buyers, they're not retail buyers. They know damn well how to get in at a good price. And so you're telling me that since Paul Tudor Jones, we haven't seen 10 new family offices? Sure, we have, and they probably triggered that recent sell-off that we had.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just continually see the really high net worth and family offices getting in, and you'll have smart institutions continue to move in as well. I think Fidelity has been the smartest, and they've been at it for the longest. And one by one, we're just going to see others realize what they're missing, and number go up. It's a great meme, but it works too. I mean, you can't resist it.
Yeah. What's your take on Davie Day Trader? Like,
It's it's pretty amazing. I saw the interview he had. I think it was like Squawk Box or something today. It was really funny. But he's basically saying like, look, I'm not responsible for this wave of day trader armies. This is, if you're going to shut off the sports from the world, this is what's going to naturally happen. People are just going to start doing this. But I definitely think there's a Portnoy effect in the market, is what I like to call it. The fact that you have a bankrupt Hertz stocks, well, what was like a 3x or 5x, and it's just absolute insanity out there. But this is also this is like late innings of central banking, money printers, institutions that weren't built for the 21st century. Believe strongly in like what Jeff Booth talks about and the price of tomorrow, that basically like tech is deflationary. Like we keep getting better computers and better phones and better apps, and they keep costing less. And the only reason that the rent and the education, everything else in this world is so unaffordable, that the millennial generation is just like born into terrible poverty almost, is in indebtedness, is just because of this central banking institution, this money printing, and it just can't work in this world anymore.
yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, I'm in New York and the rent is still skyrocketing. It's insane. So I think everyone in their 20s, especially, they're just kind of in this pitted situation. So we'll see if we'll see the hyperinflation of the dollar fairly soon,
Yeah.
especially with all this printing going on. Let me ask you another question. I think it'll be right up your alley. Hyperinflation of the US dollar. Do you think people would hedge into Bitcoin if that was to happen?
Definitely. Now, I don't actually think hyperinflation is going to come in the short term. I think in the short term, it may be deflationary just because so much global trade is done in the dollar that for the next, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, maybe, like there may be just so much demand for the dollar that we won't get that. But eventually, you put an extra 50 to 100 trillion out there, right? Something trickles down where you don't want it. And, soon, this coffee costs like $20 and gas costs like $40 or something, I mean, that could be where we're headed in more of like a 5-year period. Or maybe a little bit more. But yeah, I think even before it happens, I think people are already hedging that risk. They're like, it's just a known risk going forward. And people are seeing, I mean, like the Fed yesterday was debating, I threw this in the newsletter, they were debating like extending their Main Street facility to lend to nonprofit institutions. And then they were all going to buy individual corporate bonds. And like, that's insanity. So I think everyone's aware of this, and they're like, oh, wait, this doesn't make sense anymore, and like the stock market keeps going up, and you massive unemployment and the pandemic, and you've got riots in 211 cities. Never before in American history have this many cities concurrently had protests and riots, and people are like, how are the stocks going up? The system is like it's breaking, and people are already hedging. And then I think as some of that inflation becomes a reality a couple of years down the line, I think it'll just kind of accelerate the hyper Bitcoinization is a process that I believe is like something that's inevitable. So like in the short term, I think like, the easy currencies like, Venezuela and like Iran and others like will probably fail pretty quickly, be the first dominoes. And then eventually like the euro, even just because there's so many of these countries, and Germany's like not having it anymore. And then eventually it's like the dollar eats every other currency, and then it's going to eat itself. It's like what Raoul Paul of GM to say. And so I definitely believe in that. And basically the dollar's going to eat everyone else, and then the dollar's going to eat itself, and Bitcoin's going to eat it all.
Absolutely, man. I actually agree with you on that. It's interesting to see the times that we're in. And I think Cham has said it best. Like, we're bailing out these huge companies and printing out huge stimulus packages for companies that we should just be letting fail. why are we letting them just fail?
Yeah.
And well, thanks again for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. And for our listeners and our audience, where can they find you?
Yeah. So the newsletter is Snow Thoughts, just snowthoughts.substack.com. Twitter is at Matt C. Snow. And also on Medium is at Matt C. Snow as well. And those are probably like the 3 best places.
Sweet, man. Thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I think the audience is definitely going to get a huge amount of information out of this. So thanks
Yeah,
again,
I hope
Matt.
so. Thanks for having me, and stay safe out there.
All right, we'll do. Thanks, man.
Catch you later.